US President Donald Trump. Prime Minister Modi has tweeted, and I quote, "Thank you, my friend President Trump, for your phone call and warm greetings on my 75th birthday. Like you, I am also fully committed to taking the India-US comprehensive and global partnership to new heights. We support your initiatives towards a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict." Strong words coming in from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That statement coming in after that conversation with US President Donald Trump as we move into Prime Minister Modi's 75th birthday, which will kick off tomorrow. I'm joined by my colleague Zaka Jacob on the broadcast. So, Zaka, the first wish coming in from US President Donald Trump on Prime Minister Modi's 75th birthday, but at the same time, a strong message on US-India cooperation as well as the peace push in Ukraine.
Absolutely. I think this is a very significant one. It's the first phone conversation that Prime Minister Modi and President Trump have had since June 17th, when that call happened, when Prime Minister was in Canada for the G7 meeting, for which India was also an invitee. That phone call did not exactly go down particularly well. And it's after that phone call that President Trump decided to put tariffs on India, the reciprocal tariffs, and then subsequently the oil tariffs that were announced on the 7th of August. But this is the first time that both leaders have spoken on the phone. You know, Ayushman, that in the last few days and weeks, there have been exchanges that have happened on social media. It was President Trump, while answering a question to a reporter, who said that he values the India-US strategic partnership and he values Prime Minister Modi's friendship. The Prime Minister, of course, responded to him on social media on both of those occasions. But this is the first time that they have spoken. So all we know about this conversation is that it was a courtesy call to wish the Prime Minister on his 75th birthday. And the Prime Minister has also reiterated that just like President Trump, he too is fully committed to taking the India-US comprehensive and global partnership to its next level. And also the Prime Minister rounding off by saying that he supports President Trump's initiatives towards a peaceful resolution in the Ukraine conflict. So at some level, I think that last sentence also acknowledges, the secondary tariffs that have been put on India, because that is linked to a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict. And it's also significant that today, Brendan Lynch, who is the U.S. Deputy Trade Representative, was in New Delhi. He had a 7-hour-long marathon negotiation round of talks with his Indian interlocutor, which is Special Secretary in the Commerce Ministry, Mr. Rajendra Agarwal. We don't know the firm details of what has been agreed upon between the two officials. But on that very same day, in fact, within a few hours of those talks concluding, the Prime Minister received a phone call from President Trump. In fact, President Trump is right now en route to the UK for a state visit, his second state visit there. So in the middle of that, he's found time to speak to Prime Minister Modi, wishing on his 75th birthday. So I want to stress once again that this is the first phone call that the two leaders have had in close to 3 months now. 17th of June was the last phone call that they had, and today, coming as it does, just ahead of 17th of September, which is the Prime Minister's birthday, will be the first phone call in 3 months that the two leaders exchanged.
Right. I'm also joined by Payal Mehta on the broadcast. So, Payal, clearly, as Zaka is pointing out, the first call in 3 months, there was a lot of tension between India and the United States on a gamut of issues. But primarily, it seems that the momentum has been set for a reset in US-India ties.
Yes, not very long ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, reciprocated to Donald Trump's post on social media, essentially saying that the two have been great friends and will continue to be great friends as well. This call coming in from Donald Trump, ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 75th birthday, comes in with a lot of connotations, comes with a lot of notifications in the sense that he has congratulated Prime Minister Narendra Modi for turning 75, and Prime Minister reciprocating to him is saying, "Thank you, my friend Donald Trump, for your phone call and warm greetings on my 75th birthday. Like you, I am also fully committed to taking the India-US comprehensive and global partnership to new heights," which clearly tells you that there's been a lot of climbing down as far as India-US tensions are concerned, because remember, the government of the day, Ayushman, have also been maintaining that it's not just trade relations that India has had with the US. There are multidimensional relationships that India really has in terms of technology, also in terms of education as well. Hundreds and hundreds of our students are also studying across various universities in the US. So all of this is a very, very important partner as far as our global affairs are concerned. And of course, this is going to take it to new heights, is what the Prime Minister is really saying. And Prime Minister also said, sending a message across to Donald Trump that they really appreciate his initiative towards trying to find a peaceful solution to the Ukraine conflict. Remember, Donald Trump had also mediated as far as that effort was concerned, right from meeting President Zelensky to the fact that he also met President Putin. Again, on the similar lines that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also been maintaining, that there has to be a peaceful solution which has to be found for every conflict, and war is not a solution.
Right. Payal, at the same time, given the fact that Prime Minister Modi also flexed his muscles at the Tianjin summit with Putin as well as Xi Jinping, Prime Minister Modi always had that mission in place that no matter what global headwinds India faces, India will always come out on top, putting its strategic agenda first. And it seems that Donald Trump understood that was the game plan of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and which is why we're seeing such a reset in place, because the US understands that India is that crucial trade and strategic partner.
Well, people do understand across the globe that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a very, very hard negotiator. I remember very clearly on one of the occasions, Donald Trump has said that he's a very, very hard negotiator. It's not easy, negotiating with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi has told the people of the country that no matter what price has to be paid, he's willing to pay that price, whether it's political or otherwise, but he will never let India's interests be compromised. So at a time when the US wanted us to compromise on issues like, agriculture, etc., the Indian government had firmly put its foot down that they wouldn't really do it. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been a voice that the whole world has been looking forward to. So there is, of course, the likes of President Putin, with whom he has had excellent relations, to the fact that he actually went all the way, to Ukraine as well, on one of the occasions as well. And of course, now with the Chinese coming to the fore and, the photo op that you already saw, US also as a world big country understand that, India is no pass over, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi enjoys the confidence of the people of the country, and therefore he's the Prime Minister for the third time in a row as well. So, in a multipolar world, in a multi-dimensional world, you don't start picking, hard negotiated sides. And I'm given to understand that there has been a lot of pressure, from within the American system on Donald Trump not to take it too far with the too far with for the Indian, continent as far as that is concerned.
Right. I'm also joined by Aman Sharma on the broadcast. Please stay with us. Aman Sharma, when it comes to Prime Minister Modi's outreach to the global partners, it seems that the domestic compulsions which have put pressure on the Trump administration, it gave some level of political ends to use this language against India. But on the larger scale, Trump, I think, saw the writing on the wall, and which is why we've been seeing all the signs towards a reset between India and the United States. And this outreach, the first in 3 months, as Zaka was also pointing out, something extremely significant given the fact that a trade peace, if you will, between India and the United States is the need of the hour to create some level of stability in the global order. And I think beyond the domestic politics, Trump has understood that extremely well, which is why we've seen this softening of the language.
Well, Ayushman, there is a definite change in the language of Donald Trump ever since the SCO summit happened in China, where we saw these visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin together, especially that car ride that Mr. Putin and Mr. Modi shared in China, and they stayed put in the car for 45 minutes once they had reached their destination. I think those visuals had a profound impact on Donald Trump's politics. We saw a tweet by a post by Donald Trump on the same evening as well, when he said that we may have lost India to a dark, deep China. But then next day itself, in a couple of days, we saw conciliatory kind of messages coming from Donald Trump that Narendra Modi remains his close friend, and there is a very close relationship between India and the US. The Prime Minister of India also responded, immediately with a similar conciliatory message. And we had been reporting since that day that a phone call between both the leaders could happen very soon. It was imminent. In fact, some sources have hinted to us that Donald Trump could, utilize the opportunity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 75th birthday to call him up, and that is what has happened. Donald Trump has given Mr. Modi a phone call tonight, wishing him very warmly on his 75th birthday. And Prime Minister Modi, in his message, I think importantly saying that we are also fully committed to taking India-US comprehensive and global partnership to new heights. And also India saying we support the US initiatives towards a peaceful resolution of the Ukraine conflict. So we know how Prime Minister Modi has also been making efforts both with Mr. Putin and Zelensky, speaking to them, meeting them and trying to implore them to come to a ceasefire and cessation of hostilities between both the countries. The Prime Minister today also is appreciating the efforts that Donald Trump has also been doing. So a meeting of mind also on the Russia-Ukraine ceasefire efforts between both the countries. I think a major development today, the phone call being exchanged after nearly 3 months. The last time that both the leaders spoke was on June 17th when Mr. Modi was in Canada and Mr. Trump had left early from the G7 summit to go back to the US. Since then, and that was not a particularly pleasant call, because Mr. Modi had made it clear to Mr. Trump that US played no role in the ceasefire between India and Pakistan, and Mr. Modi also did not visit the US on his way back as Trump had requested, because Asim Munir, the Pakistani field marshal at that time, was in the White House the next day, and India avoided that kind of a diplomatic ambush. But since a lot of water has flown since, and this call which has happened today, I think will open up more avenues for close India-US partnership. This call, Ayushman, also happening on a day when the US Special Trade Representative was in India, had a day-long meeting with his counterpart, who was also trade negotiator from the Indian side, and both the sides have said that the talks have been very positive. In fact, the Indian side has said that they want to now fasten the signing of this bilateral trade deal, efforts towards that, to fast track that process. So clearly the animosity, I would say, between US and India is now at a low ebb, and it seems like the relationship is moving back into a very positive direction.
Right, and the need of the hour is to understand whether the language from Trump's circle will now also die down, given the fact that Peter Navarro and several other Trump aides were using such harsh language against India. But has that momentum now been set? I'm also joined by Pallavi Ghosh on the broadcast. So Pallavi, given this language coming in from both sides to kind of reaffirm their commitment to establish stronger trade ties and stronger strategic ties, and at the same time, Prime Minister Modi also vouching for the peace efforts made by Donald Trump on the international stage to achieve peace between Russia and Ukraine, what kind of tangibles could we see in the days to come, given the fact that trade talks are also underway?
See, as far as the Ukraine and Russia issue is concerned, I think that's a very important point of the Prime Minister's statement, apart from the trade ties that we are talking about. India has always maintained a non-aligned stand, in the sense that we've maintained good equations both with Russia as well as with Ukraine. It's not been either or. And there have been occasions where the Prime Minister has not just reached out and stood by Russia, but also at the same time stood by Ukraine as well. So if there were phone conversations between him and Vladimir Putin, there were also telephone conversations between him and Zelensky. And one thing I think is very important, that India is going to be seen, wants to be seen, and the Prime Minister certainly is pitching for what is called global peace. Wars don't help any country. It is very important to have a no-tolerance zone as far as terror acts are concerned, but it's also important to take a stand when it comes to maintaining global peace, because whenever there are wars, it sends to sense of turmoil. It has its impacts not just on the country which are involved, but also as far as the economy of the country is concerned. And I would look at that as a very significant part of the statement which has been put out by the Prime Minister post the telephonic conversation he had with the American president.